The whole separation lies in this fallacy. Now, what is the fallacy? The fallacy is that you seem to have a choice. You think you have a choice to be the expression of God or to be an independent agent. That is a fallacy. And that fallacy, that belief, is the one thing that your whole confused experience arises from. But Father, I'd rather see it myself. But Father, I'd rather do it my way. It was never an option. Therefore, you have never succeeded at it, but you have imagined that you have succeeded at it. And you have lived things out through the lens of that imagination. The only way out of the fallacy is to decide that you do not have to decide anything. What does that mean? It means you don't have to make a choice between this and that. If you neglect to exercise the choice, you obliterate the possibility of an experience of an illusion. You see that? If you say, yes, Father, yes, God, and you don't opt for the right to have a second choice, you wake up. Or you never slip into a dream. You've slipped into a dream. So the answer is to neglect to make that choice further. And how do you neglect to make that choice? By saying, Father, show me the truth. Or if you don't want to speak to Father, you can say, I, from the depth of my being, want to experience the ultimate truth here, now. The only way out of the fallacy is to decide that you do not have to decide anything. Everything has been given you by God's decision. That is His will, and you cannot undo it. Even the relinquishment of your false decision-making prerogative, which the ego guards so jealously, is not accomplished by your wish. It was accomplished for you by the will of God, who has not left you comfortless. It was accomplished for you by the will of God, who has not left you comfortless. And God accomplished it by being all there is. So there is no option for anything else. You see? God accomplished it by not giving you another choice. God never set up choices for you to decide between. And in the true sense of singularity, if He didn't provide you with a choice, you don't have a choice, and therefore you never actually made a choice that caused for you a real illusion. And so you are still in your holy place as the holy son or daughter of God. untouched, fully present, right now, right here in the middle of River City, right here in the middle of the kingdom of heaven. Continuing, His voice, God's, will teach you how to distinguish between pain and joy, and will lead you out of the confusion which you have made. What is His voice that will teach you how to distinguish? It's the Holy Spirit. And what is the Holy Spirit? Nothing more than your right mind. There is no confusion in the mind of a Son of God whose will must be the will of the Father, because the Father's will is His Son. Even if you don't understand that or grasp it in its fullness, grasp the fact that it is saying there is only one thing going on. There is only one thing being done, if you will, and nothing else has been done. Therefore, waking up is not an undoing of something that has been done. It's a sudden shift of perception in which what you thought you did that you didn't do no longer fools you. You see that you didn't do anything, and you didn't exist as a doer in that sense. That you're more than that and have been all along, even though you've committed yourself to being an independent doer so as to try to have an experience of being an independent authorizer, which has been a rugged experience because it can't be done. And you haven't been doing it. And you can't do something that you can't do, thinking you have done it without some kind of alarm going off within you. That's your sanity saying, stop this, stop this, stop this ridiculous behavior. Miracles, sudden shifts of perception, are in accord with the will of God, whose will you do not know because you are confused about what you will. This means that you are confused about what you are. If you are God's will and do not accept His will, you are denying joy. The miracle is therefore a lesson in what joy is. Being a lesson in sharing, it is a lesson in love, which is joy. Remember I said, when you go into the peace, there are two things that emerge, joy and love. And that they, if they are allowed, inevitably spill over into your experience, blessing everything and everyone, and blessing you at the same time while returning you to the conscious experience of what you really are. Continuing, every miracle is thus a lesson in truth. And by offering truth, you are learning the difference between pain and joy. By offering truth. How do you offer truth? You offer it by declaring it. You offer it by giving it voice. You offer it by putting it in the air, not by quietly, peacefully knowing it without ever expressing it in a manner that can promote change. You dare, I invite you to dare to voice truth, to give expression to truth, offer truth. Instead of silly bullshit social talk that doesn't do anything to upset the status quo. Dare to offer the truth and say to someone, you know what? No matter what you think you are, no matter what you believe about yourself, I know that you're divine, and that this cold you're experiencing or this headache that you're experiencing isn't your birthright. And so I'm putting it in the air right now between the two of us that I know this isn't legitimate, and I know it doesn't have any means of prolonging itself, and I know that it can go away right away. And I invite you to believe that too, and then leave it. Don't be afraid to express the truth, whether it's met with acceptance or not. Make the gift. Glorify God by expressing the truth. You run into someone who feels worthless, who's really down in the dumps about herself or himself. Convey to them that they are worthwhile. Spend enough time with them to express the worth that you see in them. Let your actions deny their worthlessness so that they might be inspired to adopt your point of view. Every miracle is thus a lesson in truth, and by offering truth, you are learning the difference between pain and joy. And you're learning that there's not just a difference between pain and joy. They are what I'm going to call unlinked pairs. Everybody says, well, if you're going to have love, if you're going to have joy, you got to have pain. How would you know what joy was if you didn't have pain? Is this not idiotic? But you don't argue with that idea. Oh, if it wasn't dark, you couldn't see the stars. Gotta be some darkness in your life so that the light fully means what it is. So you learn the difference between pain and joy, and the fact that they cannot coexist, period. And so you abandon pain. Well, the next section is called the state of grace. Maybe next Sunday will be more enjoyable. I love you all, and I look forward to being with you next week.
Thank you.